After more than 3 long years of waiting, we can finally enjoy the Reze Arc. And although it didn't turn out quite the way many expected, in my opinion, it turned out even better. I've just come back from the theater after watching what is, without a doubt, one of the best manga adaptations we could possibly have of Chainsaw Man. The color palette is spectacular, the sound design is incredible, the opening theme is insanely catchy, and the story has far more layers than you might think. In this video analysis, we'll talk about the following. Which manga chapters does this first movie adapt? Why is it a better film than Demon Slayer? Infinity Castle. What does the painting we see at the school mean? And what about the spider with the butterfly? Why does everyone want Denji's heart? What is Makima hiding? What's the meaning behind the mouse metaphor? Are Reze's feelings real or a lie? And when will we finally see the new anime season? All that and much more in this deep dive into Chainsaw Man, the Reze Arc. How's everyone doing? I hope you're feeling as good as I am after watching what is, without a doubt, one of the films of the year, at least if you're a true otaku at heart. What an excellent movie. What a great adaptation, and how beautifully it elevates the original material. For those who might not know, Chainsaw Man is an anime adapted from the manga of the same name, which at first had its critics due to its overly realistic color palette, but personally, I loved it. MAPPA may have its controversies, but between Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen, the studio has proven it can pull the chainsaw out of its pants whenever necessary. Even with Attack on Titan, despite that few backlash, it is still considered one of the best anime series ever made, one that we'll be analyzing here on the channel very soon. For those who want to know the manga foundation behind this film, MAPPA adapted the story from the end of chapter 38 through chapter 52, without skipping a single detail and doing it with meticulous precision. The only exception is one scene that I'll discuss later in this video, which I find surprising they decided to omit. Now, when can we expect to see the next Chainsaw Man season? The Reze Arc has been one of the most anticipated continuations for at least 3 long years, ever since the first season concluded back in December 2022. Contrary to what many expected, instead of a new season, we received a feature-length film, running about an hour and a half, and honestly, that was the best possible decision. In a recent interview with MAPPA's CEO, Manabu Otsuka, it was revealed that this arc was adapted as a film for several reasons. The first, budget. Given how precarious animation production has become, not only in Japan but worldwide, having a larger budget for a self-contained story is something to be grateful for. More resources mean more life, more visual quality, and ultimately, a spectacle worthy of the big screen. The second reason, production timing. The movie was announced in 2023, meaning it had at least a 2-year production window for planning and animation, which is a luxury. Most anime productions operate on dangerously short timelines, sometimes just a few months, or at best a single year. That kind of pressure ruins working conditions and damages the final product, as we've seen with some episodes of Attack on Titan, Nier Automata, or even the recent One Punch Man. According to Otsuka, the film format was the perfect way to unleash the chainsaw, so to speak, reaching a wider audience than an anime season typically would. And we all know that, not only thanks to Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, but also through many other similar releases, theatrical anime films tend to be far more profitable than relying on the unpredictable returns of streaming platforms. And judging by the film's current success, surpassing Infinity Castle in some countries during its opening weeks, it's very possible that this might lead MAPPA to rethink its strategy for Chainsaw Man, adapting future arcs into standalone films instead of episodic seasons. A decision I wouldn't oppose at all, because what they achieved with the Reze Arc is a creative and visual powerhouse that rivals, without any doubt, the work Ufotable has done with Demon Slayer. What I want to make clear in this video is my interpretation of this story. A story that many people reduce to nothing more than a violent shonen filled with blood and a protagonist whose only goals are to touch breasts, eat, and have a good time. Sorry, but Chainsaw Man is not just that. It's a profoundly tragic story, not only because of what we slowly uncover about Denji throughout the manga, but because at its core, Chainsaw Man is the story of a boy who never had anything in life until, finally, he begins to become something more than he ever believed he could be. What this film reminds us of is the importance of valuing the small things life offers, the things truly worth fighting for. I honestly didn't expect the movie to have its own opening theme. You know that feeling when an anime has an absolutely killer opening, and you think, there's no way the next one will top this. Well, then Kenshi Yonezu shows up with his song Iris Out and completely shatters expectations. How can you not love this opening when it features Pochita dancing? This song is all about the arrival of a new love in your life, about how someone's eyes, their strange philosophy, and their irresistible madness can make you want to let go of everything and surrender completely to that uncontrollable feeling. It's that classic spark that hits your chest when you meet someone who makes you lose your reason and your logic. That's exactly what happens to Denji in this film. Torn between Makima and Reze, two women with completely different personalities, each pulling his heart in opposite directions. The movie opens with that famous alleyway, the one whose door, as we later learn, hides Pochita, Denji's heart, warning him never to open it because of what lies inside. That small nightmare jolts Denji awake, leading directly into a scene that perfectly captures the trademark tone and humor of this story, Power punching him so hard he's instantly knocked out, which transitions into the film's opening sequence. In this opening montage, we see Power refusing to go to work, her horns now enormous after consuming too much blood. Everyone knows Power is special, eccentric, selfish, and a total handful. She's absorbed so much blood that it's made her even stronger and consequently, even more unhinged, an exaggerated version of herself. We all know what happens when you get a little too hyped on energy, chaos follows. So what does Makima do about it? Don't worry, she simply drains Power's excess blood and calls it a day. This scene reminds us that the devils working for public safety are highly controlled, unable to cross certain limits. If they become too much of a pain in the ass, there's a serious problem. Other devils, like Beam, could never cause that kind of trouble. I mean, how can you not love the Shark Fiend with his carefree, wild, and oddly friendly attitude? The opening also illustrates Denji's journey, from living on the streets to slaying devils for public safety. There's a key shot of a hand touching his chest and pulling the chainsaw cord. That's Makima. As we know, she uses Denji as a weapon to hunt down the gun devil, no matter what it costs. For Denji, though, this fills him with a strange kind of joy. He enjoys Makima's company, cherishes their dates, and feels for once like he's living something close to normal happiness. But as we see, this all ends with Makima leaving him completely alone, pushing him right into the path of Reze. That contrast between the warmth of Makima's illusion and the explosion that Reze brings into his life defines this arc. Seeing Denji so sure of himself even prompts Makima to invite him to the movies, to watch film after film, one after another. For Denji, this is pure bliss, like a fairy tale ending for a boy who's finally being noticed. This first act of the movie is intentionally calm. It's about building Makima's side of Denji's story. We know Makima loves having everything under control and perfectly organized. She's the leader of Tokyo's Special Division 4, after all. The opening's detail of TV screens displaying Makima's iris is a brilliant metaphor for her, a symbol that she sees and controls everything, just like the bodies we saw in Season 1. And that same symbolism continues here, especially with the mice, which I'll discuss later. In these cinema scenes, Makima acts as she always does, distant, polite, and perfectly calm. The frame of Denji and Makima sitting in the theater is crucial for what's to come, so keep it burned into your memory. If you notice, Denji and Makima feel almost nothing while watching films that make everyone else laugh or cry. Yet when they're alone, in total intimacy, they both tear up while watching an obscure indie film that no one else would care for. This isn't because they're some kind of cinephile experts. It's something deeper. It raises a haunting question. Does Denji actually have a heart? We know that at the beginning of the story, Denji replaced his heart with Pochita's, otherwise he would have died. But that raises the question, is there anything left of the real Denji inside that chest? Has he really felt nothing all this time because he doesn't have a real human heart? Or perhaps because Pochita is a devil, has Denji himself become partially desensitized, maybe even less human than he realizes? We also know that Makima, like many other public safety devil hunters, uses devils for her own personal purposes. That brings up an unsettling idea. Maybe she's become completely desensitized by everything she's done and witnessed. So maybe, by the end of it all, humans and devils aren't that different after all. These are the kinds of questions you need to ask yourself, questions that will become very important later. Because this moment in the theater, this silent connection between Denji and Makima, shows something deeper. As Makima herself says, only 1 out of every 10 movies truly leaves a meaningful message to think about. With people, she adds, it's the same. But Denji doesn't know that. He's 16 years old, with no real aspirations or deep understanding of the world. He still needs to grow. And that's not a bad thing at all. In fact, this movie shows us what Denji really wants deep down in his heart. Food, a job, and a bed to sleep in. When you've lived in misery as long as Denji has, surrounded by poverty, scraping by however you can, with only Pachita by your side while everyone looks at you with disgust, you learn to appreciate the small, good things life gives you. And those things aren't money or possessions. They're the basics. A roof over your head and a hot meal on the table. But again, Denji's innocence, his 16-year-old naivete, defines him. Many might call this an over-analysis of his character, but it's simply the truth. Denji is a boy who never received an education, who never had anything during his childhood, and it's only natural that he'd fall head over heels for the first woman to show him the slightest bit of affection. It's that rare warmth he's never felt before. Because remember, Denji's parents were crushed under their debt to the Yakuza. That little bit of affection is what fills his heart with joy and gives him a sense of humanity, the illusion that he finally has a real heart. After all, Makima herself told him he did. Let's not forget, Denji became Makima's little dog during the first season, and whether he admits it or not, he obeys her completely. It's both tragic and darkly funny that he eats a flower someone offers him just because he made a donation. A perfect metaphor for how Denji doesn't understand the symbolic weight of his actions. Eating that flower is like consuming someone's gratitude. He just doesn't get it. Still, for Denji, that date with Makima was perfect. He walks away convinced he'll never love anyone else because for him, Makima is everything. No other woman could possibly compare. But then, the bomb girl arrives, and boom! Why is Reze so important in Denji's life? The reason is simple. Reze is kind, warm, seemingly innocent, cheerful, approachable, and more human than Makima ever was. How could a boy like Denji not fall for her? Every interaction feels like a dream for him. We already saw her in the post-credits cafe scene at the end of season, smiling, friendly, inviting. Reze is the kind of person Denji feels he can finally get close to, with no judgment, no power games, just connection. What Denji doesn't realize is that he's becoming a butterfly, fluttering happily through the air, unaware that he's flying straight into a spider's web and his own demise. The difference between Makima and Reze is that Makima awakens Denji's heart on an emotional level, while Reze does it on a visceral one, physical, instinctive, uncontrollable. And let's be honest, whether you're a man or a woman, we've all met someone who sparks something very specific inside us. A connection that defies logic. With some people, it's emotional and thoughtful. With others, it's purely instinctual, magnetic, chemical, impossible to explain. You can twist it around in your mind as much as you want, but there's never a logical conclusion. It just happens. That's what Reze represents for Denji, a literal bomb who crashes into his life and turns everything upside down. Her closeness, her soft voice, that mix of tenderness and confidence, they make Denji feel special, chosen even, as if he's the hero of a love story that was meant to be. What fascinates me about Reze's character is how, unlike Makima, she feels genuinely human, and that's largely thanks to her backstory, revealed near the end of the movie. Reze was part of a special government program in the Soviet Union, trained from a very young age in brutal military conditions, subjected to cruel scientific experiments to expand her natural abilities. We don't know exactly when or how the bomb devil fused with her, but it transformed her into the living weapon known as the Bomb Girl, another being who, like everyone else, seeks Denji's heart, though we're not entirely sure why. What I love about this is that Reze started as a human, just like Denji. She too merged with the devil and became a killing machine, even more ruthless than most. And yet, throughout the film, Reze says more than once that she doesn't want to kill anyone else in her hunt for Denji's heart. That tiny admission reveals something powerful. Despite everything, Reze still has a trace of empathy. Unlike Makima, she feels something, even if only a flicker of guilt, for those who might die because of her mission. Of course, that doesn't change who she is in the end. The bomb girl is still the bomb devil. But just like Denji, Reze is torn in two, the human and the weapon coexisting in fragile tension. You can regret what you're doing, but sometimes survival leaves you no other choice. One of my favorite touches in the movie is how we see Reze working at the cafe, being absolutely terrible at her job, the worst employee imaginable. The owner can't even bring himself to fire her because, well, sometimes it's better the devil you know. In these cafe scenes, we glimpse Reze's human side, the one that forces Denji to pretend he's someone he's not just to impress her. He tries to act calm and confident, but we can see he's nervous, clumsy, out of his depth, pretending to enjoy coffee and almost spitting it out because he hates the taste. It's such a simple, funny detail, but it says everything about Denji. He's 16, just a kid, and he'll do anything for a moment of female attention. For Makima, Denji is nothing more than a weapon, a devil-hunting tool. But for Reze, at least in that moment, Denji is just a poor boy without an education, someone who can't read, someone being used by a government that treats him like an object instead of a person. When Reze drags him to school at night because she's spontaneous and unpredictable like that, we see that both of them, deep down, are kids who never really went to school. The difference is that Reze can fake normalcy far better than Denji, who remains innocent, transparent, and genuine. During this sequence, Denji has an internal dialogue where he admits that his heart belongs to Makima, yet his body reacts to Reze, trembling, drawn to her warmth, unable to resist holding her hand. Why? Because Reze awakens something instinctive in him, maybe because his devil side is unconsciously drawn to her, or maybe because he's just a lonely teenager who can't resist kindness. Innocent hearts are always the easiest to manipulate. That's why Reze points out that Japan's government shouldn't allow a 16-year-old to be out hunting devils instead of going to school and living a normal life. And she's right. Her words sting because they're true and because they reflect her own trauma. Reze, as the bomb devil, represents change, the destruction required to rebuild something new. To create, you must first destroy. To move forward, you must break from what's always been. That's how I like to see it, because whether she meant to or not, Reze marked a turning point in Denji's life. As we see later in the film, he's willing to leave everything behind for her. But we'll get to that soon. When that massive typhoon hits the school with no mercy, we get the famous pool scene. That pool scene, apparently censored in several countries, has no justification for such censorship, at least in my opinion. The moment is meaningful, symbolic, not gratuitous. The shot of the butterfly trapped in a spider's web, which doesn't appear in the manga, is one of the movie's best original additions. It's a simple but powerful image that perfectly represents how Denji, just like that butterfly, has fallen into Reze's web, manipulated and deceived like so many others before him. She's after what he hides in his heart, Pochita. One of the things I love most about this film is that it still doesn't reveal why Pochita is so important. The truth, when it comes, isn't what you expect. It's even better. Trust me. Back to the pool scene, when Reze says, "I'll teach you everything." That line can be interpreted in many ways. To me, it symbolizes Denji's loss of innocence, Reze becoming the first person to guide him through a new stage of maturity he's never truly entered. Now, let's talk about the metaphor of the mouse, the fable Reze brings up when speaking to Denji. As Angel explains, it's an ancient story by the Greek writer Aesop, the town mouse and the country mouse. It goes like this. One day, a city mouse invited a country mouse to dine in his storeroom, filled with the most exquisite delicacies: honey, cheese, bacon, fruit, and everything you could imagine. The two feasted until they were about to burst, but suddenly, a pair of cats stormed in, ready to devour them. The mice barely escaped with their lives. Shaken by the experience, the country mouse decided to return to his burrow, choosing to give up luxury and risk for the safety and simplicity of his countryside home. Because in the city, there's abundance, but it always comes at a terrible price. This fable sets up one of Denji's most important lines in the entire story. When Reze asks which kind of mouse he'd be, he answers without hesitation, a city mouse. And that answer tells us everything about Denji. He's a boy who has never had anything. He's lived in absolute poverty. He sold his organs to survive. He's endured starvation and humiliation with only Pochita at his side. No one has ever given him a chance to be someone, or even something. That's why, now that he works for Public Safety Hunting Devils, he treasures what little he has. Because for Denji, risking his life for a warm meal and a bed is better than being a starving nobody. That's something people often fail to appreciate. Isn't it interesting, though, that everyone else in the movie, except Denji, says they'd rather be country mice? All of them prefer peace and quiet over the chaos and danger of city life. It's because, unlike Denji, they know what the city truly is. Its weight, its temptations, its corruption, and they don't want to be consumed by it. But Denji, he's lived through a childhood so cruel and miserable that he refuses to ever go back. To him, the city, for all its danger, represents life, opportunity, even freedom. And that brings us back to Reze. At the festival, she embodies warmth, beauty, sweetness, and affection all at once. The movie's piano theme plays beautifully over a series of shots, and there's this perfect image of a candy apple, a symbol of Denji's happiness in that moment. Life is beautiful, especially when someone beside you shows you another way to see it. But then, the candy apple falls. It shatters on the ground. Someone steps on it, and that's Denji's heart breaking. The sweetness, that fragile happiness Reze brought into his life, ends in a single bloody kiss that changes everything. When Reze realizes that Denji's heart belongs to Makima and that she'll never be able to escape while Makima is alive, the movie detonates, literally and emotionally. Everything changes. Artistically, I think the creative liberties taken in this section are phenomenal. When I said this movie is better than Infinity Castle, this is why. Narratively, Infinity Castle exists to set up future fights in the Demon Slayer manga. It's a spectacular battle, yes, but it's linear. Here in Chainsaw Man, we get something richer. A rhythm and cinematic structure that feels like an actual film, not a compilation of episodes. Ufotable art is undeniably stunning, cleaner, sharper, and pristine. But Chainsaw Man's art embraces a different kind of beauty, grit. It's raw, dirty, imperfect, like life itself. The same visual language we saw in Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, which not everyone liked, but I personally loved. Seeing these frames come to life was like watching fireworks in motion. Chaotic, emotional, beautiful. The way Reze lights her fuse, rips off her own head to throw it as a bomb, or pretends to be an innocent girl just to slaughter public safety agents, even using their severed heads as boosters to launch herself through the air, is absolutely jaw-dropping. On paper, this already looks incredible, but seeing it in motion on the big screen, it's pure spectacle. As you can see, Fujimoto's art style is chaotic, expressive, and visceral. And while the manga's art quality may have dipped a bit recently, timing, and exhaustion being the silent killers of the industry, here, MAPPA translated that energy flawlessly. That's why this movie feels perfect in almost every way. The work MAPPA has done, and especially the direction by Tatsuya Yoshihara, is brilliant. The color palette, the way pain, anguish, and Denji's confusion are expressed when he realizes that every woman he's ever known has tried to kill him. It's all incredible. There aren't enough adjectives to describe it, and to elevate the experience even further, the film occasionally gives us first-person shots, following Reze's bombs as they fly through the air or shifting into her perspective mid-battle. These moments don't just make the action dynamic, they pull you into the chaos, turning the fight into a truly immersive experience. I love how Reze teases Denji, mocking him for still not having full control over his chainsaw powers, even after recovering by drinking a little of Angel's blood. Poor Angel, who hates working but has no other choice. Denji, as always, is completely untrained. He doesn't have the structured power-ups of other shonen protagonists. No training arcs, no mentors. He just improvises. He fights however he can, with whatever he's got, against an opponent who's far superior in skill and experience. Reze proves this when she absolutely wrecks him, beating Denji to the point where he's charred, broken, and utterly useless. If it weren't for Aki, Denji wouldn't have survived that encounter. I found the scene with the violence fiend hilarious, especially when he realizes he can't take on Reze and openly admits she's stronger than him. It's a nice bit of comic relief amid the intensity. And then there's Kobani. I'm sorry, but to me, she's still the weakest character in the entire manga. Her panic-driven existence hasn't grown on me one bit. But honestly, if you enjoy this anime, it's impossible to dislike this film. I can't believe there are people posting negative comments about it. It just doesn't make sense to me. You have these stunning sequences, like Chainsaw Man riding the Shark Fiend, fully transformed through a monstrous typhoon, battling the Bomb Girl as explosions tear through the storm. Tell me, how could anyone hate that? In Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle, I can understand some criticism. There's that flashback sequence that drags on for too long, which some viewers found excessive. But here, not a single wasted frame. In Chainsaw Man, Reze Arc, everything works. The music, the visual spectacle, the pacing, the voice acting, it's all masterful. When Denji recovers again, thanks to the sacrifice of Angel, who drains the life of a dying woman to heal him, we enter the final confrontation. This fight closes the tragic circle of Denji and Reze's relationship. Denji uses what he learned from Reze in the pool, the swimming lessons she gave him on that magical night. He turns that memory into a weapon. By dragging her underwater, Reze can't ignite her fuses, can't explode, and that's how Denji defeats her. This ties beautifully to the painting we see briefly at the school, Daphnis and Chloe by Francois Boucher, painted in 1743. It's based on a Greek novel by Longus, which tells the story of two babies abandoned at birth on an island who grow up together and face countless trials, kidnappings, jealousy, and hardship, all of which force them to mature before their time. Unlike Chainsaw Man, Daphnis and Chloe ends happily, the two lovers reunited, discovering their true heritage and living together in peace. But here, Fujimoto twists that classical romance into something darker, because in truth, Denji and Reze have more in common than we realize. Denji had nothing, and now he has everything he thought he needed, thanks to public safety. But to get it, he had to sacrifice his adolescence, his freedom, and his chance at a normal life. He became the city mouse, trading innocence for survival. Reze, too, had nothing. She was raised by the state, trained to kill, stripped of her humanity in the name of power. That's why she tells Denji that the government shouldn't let a 16-year-old hunt devils instead of attending school, because she lived that same tragedy herself. But unlike the Greek lovers, Denji and Reze don't get a happy ending. Makima would never allow it, and as we see, she ensures that. When Denji wakes up on the beach, he finds that, against all odds, he saved Reze and Beam. But how could he possibly save her after everything that's happened? As Denji himself says, if he had let Reze die, he would have been left with a horrible, haunting feeling that wouldn't let him live in peace. And that's where Fujimoto's genius shines through, showing that despite everything, Denji is still, deep down, a good person. He's seen too much death, he's caused enough pain, and in this moment, he decides there doesn't need to be another body, another tragedy. Even when Reze insists that everything she said and felt was a lie, Denji knows it wasn't. What he saw at the festival, in the pool, in the cafe, all of it felt too real, too human. He knows she suffered the same way he did. So when Reze runs toward the cafe, it's clear she did feel something for Denji. Because no matter how much she tries to deny it, there's one thing no one can escape. The thing that makes us human, the heart. Both Denji and Reze prove they have one, a real beating heart that allows them to feel pain, affection, and longing. Denji understands that even this crazy girl who tried to kill him was just following orders, just like him. That's why it's so moving when Denji says he's actually happy with his life, even as a city mouse, because after everything he went through as a child, the little he has now feels like paradise. Still, his heart remains drawn to Reze. There's no logic to it, he just feels good around her. He feels at ease. And in the end, that's what love often is, peace. But peace doesn't last long in Chainsaw Man. When Makima kills Reze, she appears surrounded by rats, almost like the Pied Piper of Hamelin leading them to their doom. Throughout the movie, and even in the opening, we've seen rats over and over again. They're Makima's eyes, her spies, her extensions. She's been watching everything. Killing Reze isn't just about eliminating a threat. It's about removing any rival for Denji's heart, keeping him entirely under her control. And then, that devastating post-credits scene. Denji walks home, thinking of Reze, imagining what could have been. Suddenly, his heart skips, almost literally. He freezes as he sees the door beginning to open. That same cursed door from his nightmares. His pulse races. Could it be Reze? It's power. The tension breaks instantly, replaced by a bit of absurd humor. A return to the playful tone that makes Chainsaw Man so unique. The tragedy melts into laughter, just for a second. But the film doesn't end there. It pulls back slowly, a zoom-out shot of that same alleyway, ticking like a clock. The sound of a tick-tock echoing faintly. It's an ominous metaphor, a reminder that Denji's time is running out. The door will open, the truth will explode, and everything will change. Because if you've read the manga, you know what's coming next, and it's absolutely insane. Thinking about it, ending the movie without showing Denji's face from Rize's perspective as she slowly fades from the world was a heartbreaking, brilliant choice. It closes the story not as a tale of victory, but as a tragic romance. A boy who wanted love, but whom no woman ever truly loved. Will that ever change? Only time will tell. On another note, the introduction of the Typhoon Devil was absolutely spectacular, not only because of the filthy, almost toxic color tones that evoke chaos and decay, but also for the way it's framed around that poor girl about to be murdered by a deranged man serving as the devil's avatar. I loved how the film's direction expanded the sequence from the manga, showing Reze's brutality in a way that feels almost cinematic. The scene where she pretends to be helpless, singing softly in Russian under the rain, only to slaughter her attacker in an instant, that's not just animation, that's pure film. For a brief moment, as the rain runs down her face, she remembers that song she probably learned during her Soviet training, back when she was still human. It's haunting. You can feel her trauma bleeding through every frame. The fact that Typhoon recognizes her and becomes her subordinate says a lot. It tells us that Reze was never clean. She's been a weapon for too long, and even a devil can sense it. But Denji, blinded by innocence and affection, can't see any of that. Meanwhile, we get more insight into Angel, a devil it's nearly impossible to empathize with or even work alongside. We see it clearly in those moments with Aki, cleaning up the aftermath of the battle. Here, Angel confirms that he serves public safety only because Makima forces him to. If it were up to him, he'd rather die than keep working, just to find peace. That detail about Angel's power, his ability to convert human life force into weapons, is fascinating. Every spear he uses to fight Reze is literally made from someone's lifespan. Think about that. Each blade costs years of someone's existence. Aki, on the other hand, continues to show us his moral strength. His training, his vow to quit smoking as he promised Himeno, and his self-sacrificing choices, they define him. Although, as we see later, stress gets the better of him. In the car scene, it's clear he's lit up a few cigarettes again. Knowing what's coming for Aki makes these moments hit harder. The future devil already told him he would die in the worst possible way, so everything we see here feels like the calm before the storm. When Aki touches Angel to save his life, it shortens his own lifespan to just 2 months. And you have to wonder, why would Aki do that? Because that's who he is, a good person who can't help doing the right thing, even when it costs him dearly. It's heartbreaking when the devil Aki tries to save begs him to let it die in peace. This whole storyline, Aki's childhood, the deaths of his comrades, Himeno's loss, and now this, it's pure tragedy. In the training facility, we see the true nature of Reze again, feeding on the blood of her victims to recover from self-inflicted wounds. When her human body is cursed, she literally kills it off to survive, showing just how far she's willing to go to reach Denji. In a small but crucial clarification, the Fox Devil can make contracts with anyone it pleases. That's why we see different hunters using parts of it, one summoning its head, another its paw. The Fox Devil, ever clever, withdraws instantly after sensing the scent of gunpowder on Reze. It knew better than to get involved. It would have been nice to see more of Aki in this arc, but even in limited screen time, his presence is powerful. His fight with Reze becomes his brief moment of glory, showing how the future devil's power lets him predict her attacks, though his reflexes must be inhumanly fast. As he says himself, "If I'm even 1 millisecond off, I'm dead." He'll have a much bigger role in the next arc. Don't worry. What's touching is how Angel begins to show a glimmer of humanity thanks to Aki. When Angel spares Aki from one of Reze's traps, despite Makima ordering him otherwise, it's proof that Aki's kindness has changed him. Remember, Angel is still a devil who despises humans and wants them to suffer. But there's always an exception to the rule, and here, Aki becomes that exception. The brief vision Angel has during the typhoon, touching Aki's hand, is deeply symbolic. It's a memory of the village Makima described earlier, the one Angel himself destroyed with his powers. Whether that memory is true or just another manipulation from Makima remains uncertain. His recollection is fragmented, maybe even rewritten. In the end, Chainsaw Man. Reze Arc, much like Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle is an outstanding film. But I have to admit, I enjoyed Chainsaw Man even more. The story, the characters, the philosophy, the emotion, everything hits harder. What about you? Did you feel the same? Let me know down below in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. If you love this kind of content, subscribe to the channel because we've got plenty more coming soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.